This weekend, we've got the final match day of the EFL season, and there's plenty to still be decided. Automatic promotions, playoff spots, relegation spots, all still on the line. And the only way to take it all in is, of course, what else but a Golazo show with Nico Cantor. Starting bright and early at 7 a.m. Eastern. Catch all the action from the Championship, League One, and League Two. Nico, Tony Miola, Mike Grella, and Nigel Reo-Coker will have you covered for 5 straight hours of coverage until that is all decided. So, of course, we've got to bring in Nigel Reo-Coker to talk all things going on this weekend.
This is a real big business we're talking about, Claudia, right now. It's massive stakes at line, so I've got to come ready and prepared.
We're leading up to the most expensive game in football, which is the Championship final, Nige, but there's still 5 teams vying for 2 spots in that playoff to get to the Premier League. And I know the stakes are high in that most expensive game, right? But even just to get into the playoff, Nige, how cutthroat are these games going to be this weekend?
Honestly, you talk about a long, grueling season, and it comes down to the last game of the season. That's just the chaos of the Championship and how thrilling the league is. You're talking about Coventry City playing Middlesbrough. And what you got to understand is different clubs have different levels of expectation. Middlesbrough are one of the teams that were expected to make the top 6 this year without any kind of pressure. Coventry have been on a resurgence since Frank Lampard's taken over. You've got 2 England internationals, 2 English midfielders going at it now as managers in Frank Lampard, coming up against Michael Carrick. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic in how that game plays out. But also not just for the race for the top, Nico. You're talking about Coventry and some of those teams we've just seen there pushing for a playoff spot. We've got the likes of Preston, who are going to be in a relegation fight. And similar to these teams, you're talking about 15, 16, 17 losses in the season. While one is pushing for a playoff spot, Preston could potentially be relegated from the Championship. It just shows how competitive the league is from top to bottom.
Nigel, you spoke a little bit already about Coventry City and Middlesbrough, both teams that are fighting for the promotion still. They play each other this weekend. I mean, there is a lot at stake for the teams and also for their managers.
There is a lot at stake. I think, you know, when you look at Frank Lampard, again, his stock's gone high again in what he's done at Coventry. Very capable manager. I think that they'll be ready for it and well organised. Michael Carrick, I'll probably say he's under a little bit more pressure now than Frank Lampard. I don't think he's reached the expectations of what the club, Middlesbrough, see themselves as where they should be. So I would say in this clash here, Michael Carrick will probably be the manager that's under more pressure than Frank Lampard, because Frank Lampard's just taken Coventry on a rocket ship and they've just been going on an upward trajectory. So it's going to be a very interesting clash. I think both clubs and both players are going to know what's at stake. So regardless of how we say the manager has to control this, you know, you've got to have tunnel vision, you've got to keep a lid on the dressing room and keep the outside noise out, it never works. Going through this experience myself, you know everything that's aware, because you've got to get into the player's mindset. It's the dream of making it to the Premier League. You want to, yes, make the playoffs, but you know what's going on. You know what's at stake. You know the results. You're going to have people on the bench. The staff are going to be looking at results. Every goal that goes in this Saturday is going to change the dynamic of the league situation.
Nigel, you mentioned the managers. You mentioned Frank Lampard's stock rise. And it feels like very recently we've seen a lot of these managers that thrive in the Prem. Scott Parker, for example, 3 promotions. Daniel Farke, 3 promotions already in his career. Vincent Kompany. Lampard was sensational with Derby County a couple of years ago. What's the difference between the Championship manager and the Championship manager that can really survive in the Prem the next year?
It's not just on the manager, Nico. It's planning, it's recruitment, it's what players you get in, it's the culture that you set in your dressing room. The problem we have with the modern game is everyone's trying to be like Pep when you're not Pep and you don't have the players that Pep has. I think it's staying true to your identity as a manager. And make no mistake, Scott Parker has achieved promotions back to the Championship, yes, but yet there's still questions about him. Is he a Premier League manager? That's something that Scott Parker knows himself, and that's something that he's going to want to address. He needs to prove prove himself to be a Premier League standard manager. When you go from the Championship, you talk about a collective of a lot of youngsters, a lot of probably domestic players and from England who understand the culture and what comes with playing football. But when you get to that Premier League, it becomes another level of luxury. So there is the element of dealing with a lot more foreign players, a lot more different cultures and everything like that. So use an individual manager. How can you blend all these different cultures, these philosophies and these players to get them to have one vision and work for you? So there's different elements that come to it when you get to that Premier League level.
So five teams fighting for those 2 spots, Nige. Do you think those 2 spots may be taken up by teams that we've talked about like Coventry City or Middlesbrough? Or do you think maybe a Millwall could make a last-minute push? You know, they really entered the conversation late in the game. In their last 6 matches, they had 5 wins.
Millwall have had an absolute crazy season, Claudia. Like, they've been up and down, and how they find themselves in this place is what we talk about, the Championship. It always heats up when it comes to the last 7 to 10 games. Experience that I had, we won, I think, 10 of the last 10 games to make it into the 6th spot with West Ham, to make it into a playoff final 2 consecutive years. The second year we got promoted to the Premier League. It's all about momentum. And right now, you'd have to say momentum does favour Millwall right now in what they've done. And I know when people want to say, oh, pick who do you think's going to go up. You can't do that. The Championship is an absolute bonkers league. It's a roller coaster. You cannot pick who is going to make these last 2 spots. It's literally a roll of the dice. We've seen so many crazy last days.
Nigel, no one cares for the grey analysis. Hit me hard with some color. Who's going to go to the playoff?
I'm not naive, okay? I know you're very intelligent. I am not going to pick what 2 teams are going to make that 6th spot, because I guarantee you get it wrong.
And we have to go to a break here on Morning Footy. We'll be right back with the next segment because our expert doesn't want to decide who goes through to the Championship playoff. Thank you, Nige.
I'm telling you, it's impossible. It's a roll of the dice. We've seen crazy things happen on the last day of the Championship. All I will say is, strap in your seatbelts and get ready for a roller coaster ride.
Okay, there's a roller coaster at the top, but the roller coaster also drops, and there are 5 teams in the mix for that one last relegation spot, one of which is Luton, that could possibly experience back-to-back relegations, dropping from the Prem to the Championship and the Championship to League One. They've got a new stadium on the horizon. If Luton are to go down, how disastrous would this be for them?
I don't think it will be disastrous in the sense, because it's not the first time we've seen it happen. But at the end of the day, they've still got time to put it right. You know, last game of the season, they got a decent result against Coventry, and no one kind of saw that coming as well. So for Luton, it wasn't a great start to the Championship, and that was the biggest problem for them. When they got into the Championship, the start of the season, they had probably 10 or so senior defenders injured. And it was a problem. They started at a very low point and they couldn't get the momentum going. They couldn't really get the togetherness going again. And they found themselves in this situation because they did not start well. And this is what I always say about when it comes to the Championship, you have to have a balance of youth and experience. And they were missing a lot of experience at the start, and they were punished for it, and they can never seem to get back that momentum going. It wouldn't be great, but I wouldn't say it's a catastrophe for Luton, because I think that if they do go down again, that there'll be a club that will be expected to come back up, and I'm sure that they will, because their manager now was the manager of Wycombe Wanderers, who were also chasing the promotion spot in League Two. And he's a very well experienced manager.
It's chaotic. You can't predict what the hell is going to happen at the end of the day. What tips do you have for Nico going into this weekend?
I know Nico very well. You know, we've got a good personal, close relationship. I know how easily he's excited. So when I come in on Saturday, I'm going to bring him the adult diapers. You know, the ones that they make for adults and grown-ups. Yeah. I'm going to bring him a few of those because he's going to have to change them quite a bit throughout the show. Yeah, look at you. You've worn one before, haven't you?
As opposed to my baby diapers or what, Nige?
Oh, the adult diapers. You know, the ones that actually fit for adults, Nico.
Great analogy. I'm loving this soil yourself metaphor leading into the Championship last match day. It's going to be very exciting.